It's almost midnight, and you're staring at the ceiling, replaying a conversation from 3 days ago. Not a dramatic one, just a text you sent that never got a reply, or a sentence you left hanging in a meeting because someone else started talking. You've got nothing to do about it right now, nothing to fix, nowhere to send that energy, and yet your brain keeps pulling the same file back up over and over, like it's waiting for permission to let it go. Psychologists have a name for this, the Zeigarnik Effect, and once you understand what it's actually doing, you'll start noticing it running in the background of almost every restless night you've ever had. It starts, oddly enough, in a cafe. Sometime in the late 1920s, a psychology student named Bluma Zeigarnik was out with colleagues in Berlin, and her professor, a Gestalt psychologist named Kurt Lewin, pointed out something strange about their waiter. The man was taking complicated orders from a full table, food, drinks, specific substitutions, all without writing a single word down, and getting every detail right, not just once, table after table, all afternoon, holding an entire restaurant's worth of orders in his head at the same time without dropping a single one. But the moment a bill was paid and the table cleared, that order vanished from him completely. Ask him 5 minutes later what that table had ordered, and it was gone, like it had never been in his head at all. Whatever mental filing system let him juggle a dozen active orders at once seemed to delete each one the instant it was actually settled. Zeigarnik took that observation back to the lab and turned it into an actual experiment. She had participants work through a series of simple tasks, puzzles, basic arithmetic, small assembly work, roughly 20 in total. For half the tasks, she let people finish naturally. For the other half, she interrupted them partway through and moved them on to something else before they could complete it. Later, she asked everyone, with no warning, to recall as many of the tasks as they could. The results weren't close. People remembered the interrupted, unfinished tasks about twice as well as the ones they'd actually completed. Finishing something didn't just end the task, it seemed to erase it. So why does an unfinished task get to live rent-free in your head while a finished one checks out immediately? The Gestalt psychologists of the time had a theory, and it holds up well today. Starting a task creates what they called psychological tension, a kind of low hum of unresolved energy tied specifically to that goal. Your brain treats that tension as a reason to keep the information active and easy to retrieve, the same way you'd keep a tab open on your browser. Instead of closing it, just in case you need to get back to it. Finish the task, and the tension resolves. The brain closes the tab and reallocates the memory somewhere else. Leave it hanging, and the tab stays open indefinitely, quietly running in the background, pulling a small amount of your attention every time your mind has nothing else to do. That's the part most people already sort of sense. Here's the part that actually changes how you'd use this. Think about how many browser tabs you're probably keeping open in your head right now, without meaning to. The friend you owe an apology, the form you started and never submitted, the book on your nightstand with a bookmark stuck 2/3 of the way through. Each one is a small, quiet source of tension doing exactly what that waiter's memory was doing with an unpaid tab, refusing to let go until something resolves it. In 2011, two researchers at Florida State University, E.J. Masicampo and Roy Baumeister, dug into something the original theory never quite explained. If the tension is about finishing the task, shouldn't it only go away once you actually finish it? They ran a series of experiments giving people unfinished goals, sometimes something as small as a task they were told they'd return to later, then tested how much those goals intruded on their focus during a completely unrelated task in between. The results matched Zeigarnik almost exactly. Unfinished goals interfered constantly, popping into people's heads uninvited, dragging down performance on whatever they were supposed to be concentrating on instead. But one group in their experiments got a different instruction before the second task started. Not permission to go finish the original goal, not even extra time, just a few minutes on paper to write down a specific, concrete plan for how and when they'd get back to it later. That was enough. The intrusive thoughts dropped off almost entirely for that group, even though the original task itself was still, technically, completely unfinished. Making the plan did what actually finishing the task was supposed to do, which means the discomfort was never really about completion at all. It was about uncertainty. Your brain doesn't actually need the task closed. It needs proof that the task isn't being abandoned, that there's an actual plan somewhere for handling it, so it can stop running the background check every few minutes to make sure nothing important got dropped. Once you know this, it starts explaining a lot of your own nights. The unanswered message that loops in your head isn't about the message, it's your brain treating an open social thread as unfinished business, checking on it uninvited because you never gave it anything resembling a plan. The show you stopped mid-episode, the one you swear you'll finish later, sits in your memory with a clarity your completed shows never get, because a cliffhanger is a professionally engineered unfinished task built specifically to keep that tension alive until the next episode starts. Even that background hum some people describe as feeling like a fraud at work, like they're one dropped ball away from being found out, often traces back to a mental list of half-finished projects and half-kept promises that never got closed out or planned for, just left open, quietly accumulating tension nobody ever resolved. It even explains why a packed to-do list feels heavier at 11 p.m. than it does at 11 a.m. During the day, you're at least occasionally acting on those open items, which your brain reads as evidence the plan is still alive. At night, with nothing left to act on, and no plan freshly reaffirmed, every open tab gets to make noise at once, with nothing else competing for your attention to drown it out. None of this means you have to finish everything you start, which was never realistic anyway. It means the fastest way to get something out of your head was never to force yourself to complete it at midnight. It's to give your brain the one thing it was actually asking for the whole time, a real answer to when you'll come back to it, not the task, just the plan. Your brain was never trying to torture you with that conversation from 3 days ago. It was just waiting to hear that you hadn't forgotten it too.